You all sound wonderful. Now I'm gonna mute myself, Sandy, and go looking for a message for Cora because I don't see her here. So you can chat, and I will go see if there's any messages from Cora anywhere.
Of
Okay?
course. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh,
And
Sandy, if I could say just before I forget, we're
sure.
getting we're at some point we're getting fairly heavy winds here tonight, and
Yep.
usually my electricity and my Wi-Fi is very solid, but in the event I go away, I will come back. So
Yes,
look for me if I appear to be missing, look for me because I'll be trying to come back.
we will be vigilant. We will be vigilant. And again, we're accustomed to the vagaries of weather as well. As Kim mentioned, we've really experienced a lot of things in our reading series here online in the 5 years we've been doing it. I mean, actually, we're inside of our sixth year, but yeah. So no worries, and we've got your back, and we are very nimble, and so for instance, if you're very concerned about that, maybe there's Gracie. Hi, Gracie. I have to say hi to my friend there in the Pacific Northwest, poetry lover, young poetry lover. So anyway, no worries. If you think that it might benefit to go first, we can ask him when
Oh
she.
no, no, I think it'll be
Okay,
just fine.
okay.
We keep with the order, and the two of you were great with organizing it. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Look, I have very little to do with it. I'm just the person here on the screen mostly. Don and Kim are the stars of that part of the show,
That's great.
and we can't really as I say every week, we cannot do it without them. So I appreciate the shout outs to them and that it went smoothly for you. Thank you so much. Uh, Everybody, we're going to be starting in just about 6 minutes. As I like to say, this isn't television, so we don't have, we try to start right on time because people are watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. But we're just about 6 minutes out. And I'm so grateful to be in everyone's presence today, um, as I am every week. I feel like poetry community is has been really necessary this week, and I've really benefited from it. I'll talk a little bit about that when I open up the program today. And so thank you all for being here, making poetry a priority. Really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful to have our four features today. Oh my gosh, I've been kind of starry-eyed about this one. It's also our first reading, our first new book showcase of the new year. So that extra little special shine on this reading today. And as I said, I'm glad everybody here could prioritize that. For our readers, just so you know, because we do start at the top of the hour, you'll hear me cue Don Krieger to start the recording, and then that's when I'll begin. You'll kind of hear a slight shift in tone in my voice. And also, you can expect that people will continue to come into the Zoom room with us. We monitor all of that. We'll be letting people in from the waiting room. Um, uh, it shouldn't be of any interruption to you, even if we let people in as we do while the reading is going on. So just wanted to give you a little heads up about that. As well, Kim is, I think, working to get Cora.
I don't see any messages from Cora anywhere that, I've messaged her in a variety of places asking if there's a problem and I'm not getting a reply. I've asked Don if he could. Oh, here we go. Here's a message.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, now she's saying she didn't get an email. So, um I will tell her, can you look in your junk folder?
Yeah, we had a little We have,
I'll resend it. I actually have resent it twice, but I'll do it again.
Okay.
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 All
Letting
right.
some more folks in.
Yeah, we're letting some
Um,
folks in.
As we go along, Sandy will share your bios orally, but I will put them in the chat and I will put in links to your personal information out on the web, such as your poet's website, for example. And I will put in a purchase point for folks to go and find your book to purchase it. Remember, everyone, poetry is the best possible gift. And Sandy, I'm going to keep corresponding with Cora to make sure she gets in the door. Now, if possible, Tim, would you mind going first if she's still
Whatever
struggling
works
to
out
get
for
in?
you, Kim.
Okay. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kim. See, Tim, it's exactly as I said, yeah. So Kim came in and mentioned exactly what I was about to sort of mention to folks, which is to our readers in particular, is that she will be putting your formal bio into the chat, as well as links to your website and links to purchase your books. And she will also be doing that tomorrow on our Facebook page. So we have people who will be watching live from Facebook and possibly YouTube. And also, we have hundreds of people who watch the recording after. So having those links the day after. We have no metrics to kind of show how we've influenced books, sales of your books, but we always are very optimistic that we have. So anyway, just to assure you that we've got that part under control as well. So we're just about 2 minutes to go. Now it's about 1 minute to go. And I just want to check in if anyone has any questions, or is everybody good to go? Again, I'm so grateful that
1 minute till showtime, right? Don, can I ask, did you send it to um the email address that I just sent to you in the private chat?
Let me check. One moment.
so Kim, we're gonna go with Tim first then, okay?
I think that's a good idea. Have a wonderful reading, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
that's the correct email.
Okay. And if soon as she comes in, whenever she comes in, just let her know that, like, if she comes in 5 minutes, she'll see that the reading's in progress, but just let her know that yeah, you got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you so
They're
much.
saying, sorry, just she sent me a WhatsApp message there, Sandy, saying that they're saying I need an ID to join.
She didn't register, perhaps.
Yeah, Don, okay. Will you let her know, Catherine, just that, because we're gonna start, just that Don will work with her to get all that squared away, to keep watching her email, and that she'll go second now. Can you just give her
I
a quick?
will. I'll
Okay.
send her a message.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm going to start the recording and
Yes, go
then
right
I'll
ahead.
take care of Cora.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, good evening, bienvenidos one and all. You are here today for Cultivating Voices live poetry, and today it's the second Sunday, which means it is our new book showcase. And not only is it our new book showcase, but it's our first new book showcase of 2026. And I really can't think of a better way after a very difficult week, pretty much everywhere around the world, of bringing some light, than having us be in community around poetry. I'm sure by now everybody knows the news of a poet who was murdered in Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good. And I was reflecting earlier this week, really thinking about, as reading about her bio, that she easily could have been a person that was coming to Cultivating Voices and reading with us. It just sounded like her kind of poetry spirit was one of those that might have brought her into our room here. And I feel like, the loss of any poet in any community is a tremendous loss. And I feel like when we lose one poet, we really lose there's a tremendous vacuum left in the world. So just want to take a moment and acknowledge that it's been very difficult to kind of navigate the news and navigate how the news unfolds, what we see, what we don't see, and to acknowledge this loss of this poet, which all the more reason for me means that poetry and coming together is all the more precious. Poetry continues and has, ever since we began this program over 5 years ago, to be a place of comfort, solace, community building, a place to share and express an entire range of emotions. And I'm extremely grateful to be in this community with all of you, and extremely grateful today to be in community with our four exquisite poets that we're going to hear from today. We'll be hearing from Tim Dwyer, Cora Peters, Rose Boehm, and Joan Larkin. Want to remind you before we get started, a big round of applause and gratitude for all of you who joined us live last week for our first reading of the new year. It was our Poets Focus on Time with our featured poets, Elizabeth Bradfield and Heidi Seaborn. It was so affirming to see so many of you prioritizing poetry on a Sunday afternoon from your perches around the world. And of course, to those of you who watch us on the recording, we appreciate you too. And again, I'm so grateful to be back this Sunday with this constellation of people in community bearing witness to the four poets that we're about to hear from. A reminder that during today's reading, the chat here in Zoom land is live. So please do use it graciously, generously, and respectfully to show your appreciation for today's readers. We do share the chat and recording directly with them in our post-reading follow-up. And many, many of our readers have commented just how much they appreciate being able to share and to read the comments in a leisurely, undistracted way after the reading. Finally, we'll be posting links to our featured poets' collections and their websites, so please consider buying wherever you are, whether you're with us live or watching on the recording. Please do follow up and consider buying 1, 2, or as many copies of their books to share with friends and family. Poems are something I turn to daily, as I'm sure most of you do, for support, solace, connection. Those are really my 3 words for this day, as well as reflection. And having books from memorable Cultivating Voices readings at hand always assures me that I have a healthy supply of poetry with which to re-experience and reconnect. So in that spirit of connection and reconnection, let's turn to today's featured and future memorable readers. Tim Dwyer, Cora Peters, Rose Boehm and Joan Larkin. Well, I am going to highlight reading series today, which is how I have connected with every single one of these readers today in some fashion. The story with Tim Dwyer, which I've just shared with him, is that Tim was being featured on arguably, and you've heard me say it before, possibly my favorite reading series, virtual reading series in the world, Lime Square Poets, out of Limerick. He was going to be the featured reader. And I'm not sure whether I was on the East Coast or West Coast of the US, but I was all ready to go to Lime Square Poets on Thursday afternoons here in the States. And something happened and I wasn't able to go. But yet, here I am today, now, front seat, being able to connect with Tim Dwyer's poetry finally. Lime Square Poets doesn't do recordings. So this is a great opportunity for me to finally connect with Tim after been a little crestfallen at having missed his reading on Lime Square Poets. And I think one of the hosts of Lime Square Poets is here today, Dor, who of course also is featured here. And Dor, I'm not giving the biggest shout out to Lime Square Poets because you're in the room. I'm giving it out because I love Lime Square Poets. So, but back to Tim. Tim Dwyer was raised in working class Brooklyn, New York by parents from Galway, worked as a clinical psychologist in New York prisons, and now lives in Bangor, Northern Ireland. Living with cancer for more than a decade has informed his memorable work, and his poems have been awarded and shortlisted and appeared in respected journals and anthologies in Ireland, UK, and the United States. His chapbook, Smithy of Our Longings, was published by Lapwing in 2015, and his new full-length collection, Accepting the Call, which we're featuring today, was published by Templar Poetry in 2025. Would you please welcome our first guest reader today? Coming off that wonderful appearance in Lime Square Poets that I did not attend, Tim Dwyer.
Well, Sandy, thank you so much. And thank you to Kim and to Don for inviting me. And thanks for all of you who are Zooming in, YouTubing in, or Facebooking in. In the collection, we'll be starting out in 1960s Brooklyn with the poems, and then we'll be making our way to Northern Ireland in the 21st century. I'm pretty much a 20th century guy still trying to make my way into the 21st century. And I don't want to, have the listeners feel free to relax and listen, and don't feel any obligation to put things in the chat during the poems. If you want to, great, but please don't feel any obligation. So I will be starting out in Brooklyn, and just a little bit of context for the first few poems. I grew up in Flatbush on Nostrand Avenue. Our neighborhood really was like a small town, within a few blocks having all the shops needed, a playground, and a city park. I grew up above a butcher's shop, which will be an image that'll come up in one of the poems. The first poem is Sumac, Flatbush. A flock of geese fly southwest, and yellow leaves appear on the sumacs, pioneer trees that grow anywhere. Through the concrete alley behind my boyhood apartment, by the fence surrounding the industrial park, in the shattered glass and debris along the factory avenue. The Canarsie tribe would steep the red berries in spring water, a drink to soothe pains of body and mind. Neighborhood friends who ventured into the wider world never returned, but the sumac is still there, outside what was my mother's kitchen window. This next poem, Biopsy Results. A number of the poems I write, and a number of them in the collection, yet we'll have allusions to music, songs, different songs. Biopsy results. This morning, the Grateful Dead become my house band. I will remember the sunlight streaming from the southeast in 0 degree Fahrenheit, while Rick, the local DJ, follows Uncle John's band with a touch of gray, and I, caller number 3,
Tim warned us. Obviously, the trickster is well informed today, doing its work, friends. Oh my gosh. Let's just wait a moment, see if
Yeah.
we'll come back in, right?
Maybe it will work itself out.
Maybe it'll work itself out. In the meantime, you're here joining us, Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. I'm Sandy Yannone, your host, and we are on a little wind delay from Northern Ireland. And hoping our poet Tim Dwyer will be able to reconnect. And following Tim Dwyer will be Cora Peters and Rose Boom, who has Rose, you have some fans in the room here. I hope you're checking out that chat and see some of your friends here giving you some shout outs. And Joan Larkin joining us. It's so great to be in community with all of you here today. And thank you very much. And I'm just going to check in with Cora has not joined us yet. Is that correct?
Tim's just coming back.
Okay. Because I'm
And
just
we're almost there with Cora, I think. Okay.
Okay,
I think we're almost there.
my apologies. All of a
It's
sudden,
no
okay.
worries. Here
It's
you
all
are.
okay.
No worries.
I have a temperamental computer too that doesn't like to be vibrated on, I suppose.
No
Biop
worries. Start the poem again. There
biopsy
you go.
results. This morning, the Grateful Dead became my house band. I will remember the sunlight streaming from the southeast in 0 degree Fahrenheit, while Rick, the radio DJ, follows Uncle John's band with a touch of gray, and I, caller number 3, win tickets to see a new band who cover a song I once sang around a campfire in my teens, in summer, in woods near this house. I remember the words and the melody. As I mentioned, these are Brooklyn poems right now. Like many working class fathers, my father had a second job. He was always a non-drinker his whole life, but he tended bar at the corner street as his night job. This next poem takes place in 1968, the year of assassinations of Martin Luther King and of Bobby Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and there was a death on our street. Jimmy, 9 lives. Trouble you for a quarter? His steady refrain to those passing by. The tall, dark man sleeps at night in the subway's Parkside exit. When we wave to Jimmy on our way home from school, he smiles shyly, whispers and stutters as he rocks back and forth. Before his evening shifts at Duffy's, my father hands him a sandwich or leftovers from our supper, slips Jimmy a cold beer from time to time. One day we see him staring at the bar's brick wall, speaking urgently to a voice we cannot hear. A winter night, factory door ajar, Jimmy enters the dark for warmth. A young cop responds to a potential crime scene. The Daily News did not report how many shots were fired, if his death was quick or painful and slow. Private James Newman, first of his unit to penetrate enemy lines under heavy fire, a key battle of the Italian campaign. Honored with a Purple Heart and a nickname from his comrades, Jimmy 9 Lives. This next poem is entitled Glimmer. In Brooklyn, your clotheslines would usually be out the back windows. So that's just a little context for this poem. And this is the cover of Accepting the Call. It's a little bit, you got to go that way to see the title. You might not be able to tell, but I am color coordinated with my book. This is always the shirt I wear for readings with this book. Glimmer. We're still in Brooklyn. Glimmer. My mother is on the fire escape of our 3rd floor kitchen window. She pulls in flannel sheets, white sails in city wind, flapping on the clothesline. The sky threatens rain as I venture down the alley behind the butcher shop and rescue her fallen dress. Her smile mirrors my own. The sky begins to clear. From the fire escape in the distance, I see the twin towers rise. Steel girders glimmer in afternoon light. They grow taller every day. Brooklyn air was fresh, clean, when my mother folded our clothes and for a brief time held our world in place. This next poem is entitled Passage. And it really is sort of the passage poem as we'll be soon entering the other side of the ocean in this collection. This poem will mention a place called Tuam, which was a mother and baby institution in Galway, where from about the 1920s into the 1960s, unmarried pregnant women were incarcerated. And after their babies were weaned, the children were either adopted, fostered, or kept in an orphanage. Passage. After the war, he accepts his brother will come into the farm. On the Galway road, he works with pick and shovel, saving for a ticket to New York. There, he becomes a misplaced farmer, riding the morning subway, plowing through crowds to a factory in the South Bronx, and a half-life across 2 centuries. She's released from Tuam, never again to see her baby girl. She's a house servant in Dunleary for the next 7 years. Cooking for the doctor's family brings comfort and grief. The children laughing upstairs, her bottle hidden in the scullery below. One day, the doctor books her passage, her wish to sail from a brokenness she'll carry until her death. I carry it now. Growing up neither here nor there, this American experiment is coming to an end. I'm going back. So now we'll be crossing over the ocean to Northern Ireland, to, as I said, the small city of Bangor, which is close to Belfast. When people where I live now find out I grew up in Brooklyn, they wonder how I adjusted to a town that's just about 60,000 people. It really was very easy for me. I lived different places after Brooklyn, but as I said earlier, the neighborhood I grew up in was like a town. And anyone probably who grew up in Brooklyn in that era, or many different places in New York would relate to that. Um, and also with my family background, I really have felt more at home here in Ireland than I did in America. Wayfaring through Bangor. Since my teens, I've been drawn to empty city streets, especially on Sunday mornings, while others sleep off the night before. Then it was the tip of Manhattan, vacant sidewalks in constant shadow, echoes among the gray financial towers. From corner to corner, I tried on any number of stories. Now, gray as those towers, I walk these empty streets in a northern town. Sunday morning by Belfast Lock, this once thriving seaside strewn with vacancies, charity shops, doorway donations soaked from yesterday's rain. Around the corner I join longtime companions, my sidewalk pigeon and street sparrow. In the Brooklyn section, there's one where I mentioned sparrows and pigeons, so I enjoy that they came with me into Bangor. Morning coffee, Bangor Station. Illness freed me from the relentless world earlier than I had planned. Masses of workers stream into the station to make their connection in time. They snub out cigarettes at the entryway, daydream of the pint after work. Time to spare, I look out the window, imagine other lives until my hospital bus arrives. Well, I'll be reading two more poems. I want to thank you very much for your kind attention. Uh, for those interested in the collection, as was mentioned, they can be ordered from Templar Poetry, and the website, thankfully, will be put on the chat. The press is very prompt at posting to Ireland, the UK, the US, and elsewhere. So again, I thank you for your kind attention. The next poem is called Accepting the Call. In my sleep, I dial my childhood number on our old black rotary phone. My father is thrilled I get through, and as we catch up, I mention heaven has really brought out the conversationalist in him. He admires the rolling farm fields on the outskirts of our town. What he could have grown in that soil. He confesses how unfair he had been in life, thinking Hendrix was the devil himself. Jimmy's such a lovely guy, and purple haze is brilliant, out of this world. Then my mother takes the receiver, excited we live so close to the sea. When she cooked for the doctor's family before sailing to America, she was comforted by the sea along Dunleary's shore. No words for the joy that her daughter, taken from her in Tuam, has become the big sister I visit in Galway. My mother teases my beard. You've gone all salt and pepper. Her laugh so lively. As the call nears the end, She reminds me to wear the scarf she sent 40 years ago to ward off winter's chill. When I read this poem, people often ask me about this. Oh, thank you very much. They asked me about my sister. My siblings and I were first contacted by my oldest sister in 2005. That was a few years after my mother's death. Um, we've become very close to her, and she's a very healthy 85-year-old and living in Galway, and her home is my home away from home. So that's my sister Jean. Now, this last poem is entitled Whistle Across Time. This poem begins with my translation in a haiku form of a treasured 9th century Irish monastic poem, which often goes by the title of Blackbird of Belfast Lough. Back then there were these wonderful poems, most likely attributed to monks, that wedded spirituality and nature. Lough Lee will be mentioned in this, which is the old Irish name for Belfast Lough. And this will be the last poem. Whistle Across Time. Over Lough Lee waves, yellow-billed song of blackbird cast from wind blossoms. With cancer comes an urgency to find where on our shore a forgotten monk wrote this 9th century verse. I haven't heard a blackbird whistle over Belfast Lough, but today a robin peeks out among wind blossoms, lands near my feet, and begins to sing. Again and again he flies from bush to strand. Flutter of belief. He's greeting me, showing me it was here. Thank you all for your kind attention, and I look forward to the other readings and to the open mic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's Tim Dwyer. The book is Accepting the Call from Templar Poetry. I want to say I admire a gentleman who coordinates shirt, bandana, and book. Fabulous. And also, I also want to say your backdrop from your kitchen is exquisite. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you.
It's beautiful.
Well, my wife loves this cabinet here. Yeah.
I love that cabinet. I absolutely adore that I'm a bit of a kitchen kitchen connoisseur. I'm a bit of an antique dealer on the side of stuff from the 50s and 60s. So I can
I'm from the 50s and 60s, so I'm an antique.
And I also appreciate that that ability that your poetry has to be so fluid across the pond, as we like to say. Bridging, I used to think when I was growing up that the ocean was a thing that divided us. And now, of course, I believe the ocean is what really connects us. It, connects us. So I love that your poetry really does, serves that same function across memory and time. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Tim.
thank you so much,
What a
Cindy.
pleasure.
And thank you all. I saw some very kind comments showing up there, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, I believe we're going to go to our next reader, Cora Peters. And I am so excited to introduce Cora to all of you. There she is in all her illustriousness. Thank you. So good to see you. And thank you for the support from the one and only Door from Lime Square Poets. Doesn't get any better than having the host of Lime Square Poets right there, not only in your corner, but literally right there by your side. Well, I want to say when in Limerick, which is where Cora is joining us from, the best place to meet poets is at the monthly Wednesday reading at the iconic White House, which is where I first met Cora Peters at one of the equally iconic after parties. There's nothing like a Limerick poetry after party. We became kind of instant friends at that after that reading, and since then we have had some memorable, I was gonna say shenanigans, but I'll just say meetings to just make it a little more PG rated. But none more satisfying, honestly, none more satisfying than tonight, welcoming Cora to Cultivating Voices with her debut collection, highlighting her debut collection, The Beauty in the Broken, kind of a memoir in verse, highlighting a life lived well and interestingly in the storied city of that city of poets, Limerick, Ireland. Well, now to the more formal biography. Cora Peters has a long association with the artistic community in Limerick, Ireland. She has recited her poetry and stories at the Curt International Festival of Literature, Listowel's Writers' Week, King John's Castle, Limerick, and the Hunt Museum, to name just a few. She completed a storytelling workshop with the world-renowned Maria Gillen, attended the Irish College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, where she studied psychotherapy and acupuncture, and also completed a Writing for the Media course at the Limerick Senior College. The Limerick Writers Center, let's give a shout out to Dominic Taylor, director of the center, published Cora's debut collection of poetry and stories, The Beauty and the Broken, in April of 2025. Glad you're here, my friend. I'm looking forward to hearing The Beauty in the Broken. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear.
Great, at last. So, right. So I will read something tonight from this debut collection, The Beauty in the Broken. And I will start off with the title poem, because an awful lot of people have asked me, is there a significance, The Beauty in the Broken? And there is. And I refer to the ancient 15th century Japanese art of kintsugi when I say The Beauty in the Broken, because I love the way that they don't discard something when it's broken, that they repair it, piece it back together, and with all the cracks, then they highlight them and they say that they view this object then as stronger and more beautiful in the broken places. So I really like the idea of that, and I thought it was a beautiful metaphor for life. And I just kind of think a lot of us along the way have been scarred or broken in some way. And I just think it's a nice way to look at it, rather than looking at scars as ugly, to look at them as, a strength, a kind of a symbol of your strength and your resilience, and, look how far you've come. So I kind of like to look at it that way. And just, I think there's a kind of, that in itself has its own beauty. And I just think embrace a new aesthetic, really. That's just the way I look at it, because I think those of us who have been scarred. So I want to dedicate this to all the survivors. So I wrote it for my surgeon, Miss Louise Kelly. So I will go. The Beauty and the Broken, for Miss Louise Kelly. When my little friend Sakura's china doll smashed against the pavement on her skull, her mother gathered up the broken pieces. In Japan, the ancient art kintsugi honors imperfection, and sitting side by side in silk kimonos, they delicately pieced her back together. The mother mixed a mucilage of powdered gold and sapphire lacquer, then highlighted the beauty in the broken by gilding with celestial gold each arbitrary crack. When the surgeon took my breast, she soothed my fragility with kindness and precision, and as the balm of Gilead she healed me. Now, like surgical kintsugi, my looking glass reflects Louise's beauty in my broken, where she stitched a seam as silver as the moon across my chest. So that's that. So I will now go on to, can you hear me okay, Sandy? You can, okay. I will now go on Vincent's epilepsy for Vincent van Gogh, and I wrote it from the point of view of how ill he was, and because of his illness and his fragility, I suppose, really, and his genius and all of that. So I will read that now. On Vincent's epilepsy. Thank you, Dr. Gashi, for your kindness to Vincent. He speaks very highly of you, and I hear that you've been treating him with foxglove. The paint has dried in all the ears of wheat, and that is why I'm here. You see, Dr. Gachet, tomorrow is the day when Vincent and despair splatter death across his chest, and you think I jest. Oh no, Dr. Gachet, I've travelled through time to be with him. I've seen how harsh rejection scribbled colour from his face and left him ochre and unearthed it, and how he paints in yellows to compensate. And I have seen him rise like Lazarus, bloodied and bewildered from the epileptic seizures that had floored him. Hence my quest. I too, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, have sat here in the half-light of the night cafe and pondered. Would it dim his genius if I tried to change the mapping of his mind? Would the apple blossoms bloom? Would all the shirts get laundered? Because we share a bond that only soldiers know, I take the road that's lined with slender cypress trees and lavender and land, a dusty pilgrim at the gates of St. Paul's. The beauty of the lilac-covered ivy trees and irises belies the horrors of the snake pit locked within these dark, foreboding walls. This asylum is a maze of brooding greys. Each sombre cell in every cloistered corridor echoes with the sadness of old men. Touch the memory, touch the darkness of the energy inherent in the stones of Son or me. I trawl the halls for Vincent's room, with windows to the inky eastern sky and starry nights. Ancient ghosts, silence as old bones, listen in the stillness. The walls breathe. Very far away, somebody is screaming. I think it might be me. So now, thank you very much for listening to that. And now I will sashay into a little bit of prose. As Sandy already mentioned, that it is kind of in part memoir in verse form, in prose form. And because we were so fond of the White House, and because of its long literary connection, its history and everything, and as Sandy said, is where we first met as well. And where the first Wednesday series with Dora and Lauren takes place the first Wednesday of every month at the moment. But it is such, I remember the White House from the early 1960s when I was a child, and my granddad would bring me in there. And you had all of these people. It was so bohemian, wonderfully bohemian. It was, and they'd sing, they'd recite poetry. Fellows would come in like and say, oh, take out a crumpled sheet of paper out of their pocket and say, oh, the one I wrote this morning. And just read it out like at random. And it was a fabulous place. So it's always, I have the memories from then, from that long ago, like so. I'm the oldest person here. I've officially been drinking in the White House since I was 3 years old. So I'll start this now. The White House bar. Before leaving the house, Grand and Ned would sit on a box in the hall and buff his shoes with a horsehair brush. It was the early 1960s, and I was about 4 years old and a giddy ball of energy. I'm taking the little wild one for a walk to give you a break, Granda would shout in from the hallway while he was buttoning up my coat. And as soon as we'd get outside the door, we'd make a beeline up O'Connell Street, past the Augustinian Church, straight to the White House bar on the corner, one of the oldest pubs in Limerick and Granda's local. I'd burst through the door, kicking frantically at the freshly laid sawdust, scattering it everywhere. The proprietors, Eamon Leeson, a tall, sombre man, always standing behind the counter, polishing glasses on his apron, would throw a curmudgeonly eye in my direction. And once Granda could catch a hold of me, he'd put me sitting up on the bar counter and pull his bar stool in to corral me. Ita, Eamon's sister, always pulled Granda's pint and put it up on the dark wooden counter to settle. I watched mesmerised as it surged and settled, and when it was ready, I got the first sup of the creamy Guinness head. The other old boys would drift in gradually. Pints of plain all round, whiskey chasers, and a few bob for the little one to buy an ice cream. Silver sixpences, threepenny bits, and chicken pennies would be pressed into my hand. I cleaned up. I loved the pub. I loved the smell of the porter, the smell of the turf fire smouldering in the fireplace in the corner, and I loved it when the old men would light up and puff their pipes, and the sweet aroma of golden Virginia and conger plug tobacco filled the air. From my vantage point on the bar, I took it all in. High up behind the counter were 3 large wooden whiskey casks. Sometimes men would come in with their own bottles, usually cobalt blue milk of magnesia bottles, to be filled with whiskey from the wood, and go away with it in their inside pockets. A big Belfast sink stood in the corner, and Eamon Leeson used to have his long johns soaking in soapy water in it. Overhead hung a large picture of the Sacred Heart with a red lamp burning underneath it. On a high shelf, 2 beautiful black and white whiskey dogs, ceramic West Highland terriers with diamond eyes, set side by side. Alongside them, a white chainy jug with big pink roses on it, and a mother of pearl rosary beads draped like a coral over the handle. The rest of the shelf was stacked high with books. Eamon Leeson kept a small library from which customers could choose and peruse a book whilst enjoying a drink. The top shelf was lined with an array of liquor bottles of all shapes and colours, emerald, amber, and azure. And when the shafts of sunlight streaming through the window fell on them, it seemed to create a halo of mist around them. "What does that bottle say, Granda?" I'd ask, and Granda would spell and sound out the letters for me. I very quickly got the hang of it, and soon I was able to read the labels on all the bottles. I could also read the posters that adorned the walls, advertising upcoming theatrical events, variety shows, and operatic productions, usually to be staged in the City Theatre or the Savoy. Sometimes visiting performers would drop in for a libation and give an impromptu dress rehearsal. One particular afternoon, 2 such performers touring with an operatic company came in. One a tall, handsome young man with straw blonde hair that flopped down over one eye. He wore a paisley cravat and a cream jacket with a gold pocket watch. The other man was dark-haired, with a broad, smiling face and a handlebar moustache, and wore a black tailcoat and dicky bow. They stood over by the fireplace and started to sing a most beautiful aria called the Pearl Fisher's Duet. It was as though everyone in the pub had been turned to pillars of stone and just listened. It was possibly the most magnificent thing I've ever heard in my life. The other thespians lined along the bar would recite poetry or give a song. Alfie, a raw-boned little man who always wore a flat cap and sat at the end of the bar, would give a maudlin, out-of-tune verse of "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen." He got the same applause and the same respect as all the gentlemen and scholars. Nobody here shook hands with snobbery, and I learned from an early age to treat people from every walk of life with equal respect. I also saw heartfelt kindness. Alfie was a martyr for the drink, and when he wasn't looking, I'd see Granda taking out a crisp pound note and folding it tightly into a tiny little square, and going over to the coat stand behind the door and slipping it deep down inside the pocket of Alfie's thick serge overcoat. Granda said Alfie had a house full of children, and he drank the wages again. So he put the money there so his wife could buy milk and bread for her children. I said it was folded up too tightly and she'd never find it. "She'll find it," Granda said, in a solemn tone that I'd never heard her use before. At 6 p.m, the church bells would ring out, and Ida would hand down the Angelus, and the men lined along the bar, their hands joined loosely in their laps, and their heads bowed, would mutter the response into their chests. This was our cue to leave, and Granda would lift me down off the counter, and holding his hand, possibly a little drunk, I'd skip down the road beside him, the pockets of my coat weighed down and jingling with coins. This early education I received at the White House Bar gave me a lifelong love of literature and the arts. I saw kindness and empathy. I learned how to read, and I learned how to curse, something that did not go down well with the presentation nuns when I started school. But that's a story for another day. So Thank you for listening to that. So now I will go on to, I'll stick with the White House actually, and fast forward about 30 years, of course, fast forward about 30 years to the White House, and that is where I first met the wonderful Terry Murray, brilliant poet and white witch, and the same place. It was the same pub, same whiskey casks were there, but all the old people were gone. My poor granddad had passed on. The proprietors, Eamon Knight, had passed on. All the, the people that, the clientele of that, they were all gone. So that was it. It was kind of sad in one way, but it's another way. It was really nice because we forged new friendships there and met new friends. So this is the White House again, as you say. You'll recognize. I'm looking at the page now. I'm after losing it. Sorry about this. Yeah. So as I say, I met Terry and we just kind of became instant friends. Like as I did with Sandy when we met. It was just like that. I think the White House is that kind of a magic, brings all the best people together, I think. So anyway, this is in memory. I wrote this in memory of my friend Terry. So this is from my friend Terry Murray. In the shadow of the whiskey wood, we virgins gathered. We spoke of friendship and how ours would endure, and we settled in the scorching dust. There, amongst the ghosts and the photographs, we spoke softly of siren songs and dark and troubled souls, and the power of witchcraft and lust. We raised our glasses to the ancient oracles who veered your trail, and we drank and danced and laughed. Now, safer, stronger, bolder, your life became poems, and the people gathered to hear your words, beloved Terry, a gentle refugee from over trouble's border. Now, your February face, lean as an El Greco painting, speaks sadly of only yesterdays and one sorrowful tomorrow. You smoke a cigarette. Then I swaddle your tiny frame in bed and kiss your forehead, tenderly as I would a child. My soul collapsed with sorrow. But today I see you, lit by a sheaf of sunflowers, and I hear your voice. And I remember your smile from when your cheeks were full and fat. And I remember the madness and the laughter and the rare old times. And I remember you singing and dancing in a flowery hat. So that was from my friend Terry. So what will I do next? Yes, the cashmere coat I will do next. And this is, I don't know, you know yourselves when people have passed away, people belong to you have passed away, and you get the task of, gathering their clothes and giving them into a charity shop. And do you ever wonder who gets them? Who bought them, and do you ever sort of think, imagine if you met somebody coming down the street wearing a coat belonging to one of your loved ones, or anyway, it has been known to happen, is all I'm saying. And I will read this now. I'll read the cashmere coat. I thought it was you when I saw your cashmere coat that Christmas Eve on Bond Street, and I followed you. I marked you in the distance, terrified you'd stray. My breath became untamed. My ears heard nothing but the rushing gush of blood. The shoppers now from Butte Ballet. The vines around my memory fell away, and vignettes of our lives spilled out unfettered, and brought me back to winter in Berlin. Remember, it was there I bought the coat, for you, my winter soldier, and how it bristled in the frost atop the Reichstag, whilst you smoked a Captain Black cigar and nipped on gin. Now, passing the Eden Gallery, I see the face reflected, stunningly grotesque from within a crystal frame layered upon a photographic image. A Jonas Lariche, Baroque Act 1. Your cashmere coat, less blessed by a frail and famished frame, smelt of dampness and sweet afternoon. The mapping of his face, shaped by a life among the ragged people, shone sallow in the low-hung winter sun. Now, driven by compulsion and intrigue, I follow to a Bono Bijou bar. They are sitting drinking whiskey and speaking in the long-forgotten language of Polari, to old friends lost in time. Nanti latte, yole lente, nishte. Your cashmere coat takes on another life, to keep this old gent warm and live his story. I knew that I would think of him often and pray that he was safe. At the crossroads of our little Bohemia, I turn east into the street, and with a lonesome feeling, head for Charing Cross Station. How are we for time, Sandy?
Doing all right. You got like one or two more.
Will I do one or two more? Okay, so
Yeah.
all right. So I will do this. Tommy Fitz's Punk Shop in Limerick in the 80s. Now I'm moving along to the 80s. It was a bit drab. There was a recession. There was immigration. There was unemployment. It was very drab, and there was only a few of us that were goths and punks that were around. There's about three of us, I'd say, in Limerick, and we really had nowhere to go. And we just this guy Tommy Fitz came home from London, and it was just I just heard music. I heard music from The Cure coming up in this basement one day. What the hell? I better investigate, like somebody else likes The Cure. And that's which basement, like it was a punk shop. And there was bean bags and couches, and Tommy had the deck set up. He was a DJ, and he was just home from London, so he was selling all this, goth gear and punk gear, and it was all hanging on the walls. And goths and punks came from all over Ireland and some from London to buy these clothes, but to hang out there and listen to music, and geez, it was amazing. Like, and nobody knew. You just walked by it. It was down in the basement. This was like our secret place kind of thing. It was amazing. So I just wrote this anyway for Tommy. Tommy Fitz's Punk Shop. Limerick, early 80s. We were punk rock, knee-high docks, multicolored mohawk locks, counterculture, dark wave goth. We rocked, but we were lost. All we had were chips and spliffs and acid trips, mavericks, misfits. Then Tommy Fitz, the coolest man in Ireland, opened up a punk shop in his basement, and I found my tribe. Imbibed with scribes, got drunk with punk, smoked pot with goths. The Ramones, Susie Sue and Johnny Rotten, all on cotton t-shirts on the wall. Black lights, fishnet tights, bondage pants of polyvinyl chloride draped in chains. Then Tommy put the records on, the Smiths, the Slits, the London Calling album signed by every member of the Clash, and Robert Smith, To Miss You, Kiss You, Love Cats, Cool Cats. We lounged and listened to the tunes and lived the life. You brought a piece of London home to Limerick, Tommy Fitz, and I'm relatively sure you saved my life. So now I will conclude with this one. So it's called Clearing Out the House, and I think everybody's gone through that as well. Excuse me. So clearing out the house. After you had gone, I white walked around your house on Easter morning, gathering up the life you left behind in plastic bags and boxes. All your precious earthly things. On your antique dressing table with the beveled mirror, your powder puffs and perfume, your harlequin-shaped glasses resting on your book beside your cigarettes, your wedding and engagement diamond rings. Hanging in the chiffer robe, your beaver lamb fur coat. I lean in to rub my cheek along its softness and inhale the heady scent of hyacinth and honeysuckle crystal by Chanel. In a handbag on the shelf, mortuary cards of people long forgotten. Some letters never meant for other eyes, a book of green shield stamps, the hot press still stacked with starch white linen, and winter sheets of candy-striped brushed cotton. Beside the Belfast kitchen sink, the ham pot that the neighbours queued to borrow every Christmas Eve to boil their hams. I filled the whistling kettle from our childhood, just to hear the rooster's head that whistled when it boiled. I poured the tea, and sip it from your willow pattern cup, an elixir of high magic that brings me back to times when all the ones I loved were still alive, and everyone was kind, and spirited and carefree was all that we could be. Sitting in the kitchen, in the shadows of old ghosts, the grief that I had turned outside in came crashing to the fore, and I lamented how those lives that burned so brightly could be fleeting as fireflies in the gloaming. Does every precious item that we leave behind measure out our lives in Chinese chapters to be loaded on a van to clear the landscape? The house where we were cradled has been stripped now and made ready for new bones, and the vastness of the silence where you spoke is desolate and lonesome as Wyoming. Now, that's that from me. And thank you so much, Sandy and Kim, for inviting me to do this. It was really an honour, I must say. And I'm looking forward to hearing all the other readers, of course. So, yeah. And Sandy, I'll be seeing you soon, won't I, in April?
You'll be seeing me in April for sure. And
I'd like
Limerick is a definite stop on the tour, obviously.
it better be.
I never, Edward O'Dwyer won't let me come into Ireland unless I come to Limerick. He says you
Well, I
can't.
won't let you either.
You know.
I won't let you
Yeah, I
either.
wanted
So
to just say a couple things. First of all, the book is The Beauty in the Broken. It's this really amazing kind of memoir in verse. And it really brings, what I love about this book is it brings the color of Limerick to full bloom. And of course, the White House is such, if any of you here now, I imagine everyone in the room now here with us knows they come over, their first stop is Limerick, not Dublin, you
yeah,
know, not Galway. Sorry, I'm not offending anybody from any of these places
no,
because
no.
I love them all, but I'm just saying Limerick is a place to be, and that White House bar is the place to be for poetry events. And
Yeah,
I'll finally just say, in terms of, first of all, the poignancy of what you spoke about the beauty and the broken. The very first time I came over in 2016, I I didn't, the White House was closed, but they were having the reading on the edge. And it's a long story, but that's how I met Edward O'Dwyer, and that's how I got connected to salmon poetry from that one night of poetry in an open mic in Limerick. So you can blame Limerick for me being on the screen right now with all
all
of
right,
you. Limerick's fault that, yeah, it's
great.
Limerick's fault for everything that has to do with me. But I wanted to mention that I met Terry Murray, that I heard Terry Murray read that night.
You too.
I did. And then I knew
Thanks.
she was a beloved, if she was a beloved member of the community. And then of course when she passed,
Yes,
I was because I had seen her and I had learned about her, I knew how important it was
yes,
to,
right.
I knew how deep the loss was for the community.
Yes,
And I still to this day, anytime anyone brings up Terry Murray, I'm like, yes, Terry Murray. Like, say her name for sure.
yeah.
Because
Oh,
she's,
glad you got to hear her.
yeah,
See,
yeah. So thank you for really bringing the life of Limerick to every single one of us in this room tonight.
okay, Sandy,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Is it
See you very soon.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
friends, we are traveling, traveling, traveling. Stay seated. Two more readers to go. You do not want to miss Rose or Joan. Trust me, trust me, trust me. We're going from Limerick, Ireland, over now to Lima, Peru. And what I want to say before I give the formal biography of Rose Boehm is that, sometimes we meet by happy accidents. And this is the case with Rose. I was attending a reading. Kim was actually the person I'd gone to see read at this wonderful, wonderful reading series called Well Versed Words online with host Allison Hurwitz. In fact, you can catch it at 5:30 Eastern today, pretty much right after ours if you want to go. If you want to go online poetry reading hopping, go from here to Well Versed Words. And Rose was one of the readers. I did not know what I was about to experience, but Rose dazzled and captivated us then. And I have no doubt is about to do the same today. Well, Rose Boehm is a German-born British national living and writing in Lima, Peru. She's the author of 2 novels, short stories, 8 poetry collections, and 1 chapbook. It feels a little bit like the 12 Days of Christmas, the 5 golden rings. Her poetry has been published widely in mostly U.S. poetry journals, both online and in print, and she is a several-time Pushcart and Best of the Net nominee. Rose's new chapbook, The Matter of Words, was published by Kelsay Books in June of 2025, and her new full-length collection is on its way, coming in 2027. Thank you for joining us from the Southern Hemisphere.
Thank you so much, Sandy. You have made my day. I'm blushing, actually. Here is the book. It's always a bit of a problem with the camera. I have no idea. Anyway, it's a little bit different than my usual fare. Because I am in love with words, it occurred to me, I'm getting, like maybe many of you, online every so often a word, a dictionary word that I earmark to look at and to visit again. And then I picked out the ones I really felt were particularly interesting, and I made them into a kind of dictionary, poetic dictionary, but not in alphabetical order. And it's quite, it was fun. So join the fun. Here they go. Jocose. The jocose friend. The pain in the backside at any dinner party. The guy who thinks he's funny. Every sentence a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The dictionary says that jocose is applied to anything that provokes laughter. Maybe, but that still doesn't make the guy witty. Do we laugh with him, about him, or do we sigh, promising ourselves not to invite him again? Craven. The coward, he who will lie rather than defend his position. Unsurprisingly, he won't have a position. The craven individual who will move with the wind, afraid to stand his ground. Unsurprisingly, he won't have a ground. The kid will pick up the rotten apples from under the tree, unless those that are brave enough to climb its branches will throw him some, and he knows how to make them. Iconoclast. The person who asks why. Should Judas not have a place at the table? Pardon, didn't he help to fulfill the plan? What does skin color have to do with brains? Why would the church sell absolutions? Aren't there as many ways to God as there are people on this earth? So, do all the faraway people who've never heard of your Jesus all go to hell? Even Jesus drove out the tradesmen and money changers from the temple, and the Pharisees never forgave him. Like all iconoclasts, he would be in deep shit trouble if he were to show up in these interesting times. Soupçon. A hint of jasmine, a touch of curcuma, a dash of pepper, a pinch of salt, a smidgen of mustard, a splash of vinegar, a drop of wine, a morsel of cheese, a speck of dust, a trace of methamphetamine, a modicum of madness. Firstling. Being the firstborn is not always a blessing. The queen's first baby promised to Rumpelstiltskin. The firstborn animals dedicated to the Lord so that the priests could eat them. Come spring, the firstborn lambs consumed at Passover. The firstborn child is still a parental experiment. They'll get it right next time. Paul called Jesus the firstborn of all creation, and look what happened to him. The prodigal son was not the firstborn. but one firstborn was called Cain. There is a moral somewhere in these tales, and I'm curious, not being a firstborn. My big brother, the firstborn, was the first to go. Exonym. Oh, America, a name given to the whole continent by a German cartographer. He never traveled there, but called it America after his colleague cartographer, Amerigo Vespucci. There are many countries on the continent of America. The most powerful and influential is the United States of America. Other Americans, among many, the Mexicans, the Peruvians, the Colombians, the Chileans, the Brazilians, exonyms for Mexicanos, Peruanos, Colombianos, Chilenos, Brasileiros, the names by which they know themselves. The Navajo call each other Dine. Warsaw is the Polish version of Warsaw, and Auschwitz was the German name for Auschwitz. Noetic. Now here's a word worth diving into. It's a poet word. The Greek word noesis, noetigos, inner wisdom, implicit understanding, intuition, the poet's muse, state of knowledge. Someone explained the noetic structure in philosophy. The sum total of a person's beliefs, plus the relationships between those beliefs, plus the relationships of the relations between those beliefs. You do realize that only a poet is able to express its complexity? The poet's triumph of the noetic part of their brain over their instincts, ways of knowing beyond our traditional five senses, an energy that is beyond space and time. Smorzando. The crescendo of my throbbing ache, gently fading. Pontificate. First, flex your upper body muscles to appear more intimidating. Learn from the cockerel. Then ready your vocal cords. Learn from the cockerel. You know what mansplaining is, don't you? Now opine in that smug and loud way that sounds so annoyingly pompous and dogmatic. Where you don't have what you don't have in facts and wisdom, just say it with all the conviction, since only you are right. There is no comeback. You'll smirk on your way home, knowing that once again you impressed. Maelstrom. The grinding stream, the whirlpool that sucks everyone in its vortex. The sea goddess Calypso once created a massive maelstrom for revenge. Real and mythic cauldrons. These are those in the British Isles, the sea cauldrons of Celtic legend. Not far from the Hebridean islands of Iona and Mull, the Atlantic tide creates a mighty conflagration of currents, waves that smash on the rocks, often reaching a height of 6 meters. The cauldron of the Plaid, where the giant winter hag, Cailleach, was set to wash her cloak. They said that, before a good washing, the roar of the chomping tempest was heard for a distance of 20 miles. It takes 2 or 3 days for the cauldron to boil. I watched one starlit night the crashing waves between Aescilla and Caribdis. The vortex reached out and wanted me. Tenebrous. Shut off from light, in the dark, sunless places, secrets thrive. Mellifluous. Honey sweet, his voice was a unicorn of deceit. And the 2 last ones. echt. Genuine, authentic, bona fide, unquestionable, variable, the real thing. Pure gold, pure anything. No copies, no ersatz. Echt New York she was, a true phenomenon. He had strong feelings for her, and she wondered whether his feelings were echt. He was too shy to make her see, and she had seen too much ersatz to recognize echt when it was offered. I lied there more. Poseur. His silk handkerchief in his left breast pocket, his fedora at a slightly daring angle, his golf shoes had never seen the green. A fake diamond on his right pinky. He was leaning against a shiny Ferrari, parked at the entrance to a five-star hotel. She click-clacked towards him on high heels and smiled right past him when the car's owner walked to the passenger side and opened the door. Mensch. When you find the one who looks after your cat, who waters your plants, who dog sits, the one who lends you his car despite the sad fact that you just managed to total yours, who gives you a couch to sleep on or even their bed, who makes you laugh on a walk through the park, the friend to whom you can turn when your ship didn't come in, the one who'll shut up and just take you in their arms, the friend who'll listen, dry your tears, and keep your secrets safe. That is a mensch. And now, promise, this is the last one. And this is one that's not quite a dictionary item. Saudade is the title. And saudade is the Portuguese word for many things. Melancholy, sadness. I had to bite my way around it to actually try to explain all the implications of this word. It's almost not translatable. Saudade. A moment that passed like a paler shade of spring, like the knowledge of the inevitable, the vague promise of repeat, the echo of something that never was, a butterfly wing that may have brushed your cheek, dreaming of indolence, expecting the first rains on dry fields, not quite hearing the last lark before the autumn winds, the first smell of snow, the never-ending final summer dance. Softest touch of his hand on yours, the death of an infatuation, your evanescent youth, a strange bliss in your longing, fear of fulfillment, praying for the becalmed sea of inertia, celebration of absence. You carry a sharp, merciless switchblade made of stainless grief. Thank you very much.
You know, Rose, I didn't want to give away too much about what the conceit of your book was because I wanted everyone who did not know, and of course you've got some here folks here who did know, because the poets in the room, the writers in this room, I feel like every single one of us, the idea of like writing a book of like these words that have captivated us you know or have just gripped us in some way, the idea of just having a whole collection of those kinds of words is so delicious. It's such a great idea, and you did it. And
Thank
I
you.
encourage other people to go out and, take that mantle from Rose and make your own special book of poems out of your own unique dictionary. It's such a great idea. Oh, it's so fantastic. And what I particularly appreciate is how, with any word, well, what we like to do as poets is play with words, right? And it's this opportunity to find that sweet spot on that spectrum between what the playful and the poignant and everything in between. And I just love that you were able to do that with these poems. The book is The Matter of Words. Rose Boom, thank you for your debut here on Cultivating Voices today.
you.
I think we really all needed that big, that big love of words to kind of boost us, our morale a little bit. And I'll just say anecdotally, one of my favorite new words I learned last week, and I used it in as part as in a workshop I did, was I was featuring a poem by this poet who's the editor of Sweet, a literary confection, Katie Regal. And Katie actually lives in Scotland now, but she was living in Tennessee for a while. And she has this amazing poem in the latest issue of Rattle called Quitter. If you subscribe to Rattle, look it up. And the word that she used was thaumaturgical. I'll put it in the chat, which means like the making of miracles. I love it when I come across a word. It is like a miracle to come across a word that just absolutely takes you somewhere. So thank you for taking us so many places today. And now, my friends, I am taking you to the amazing poetry of Joan Larkin. I have long been an admirer from afar of Joan Larkin's poetry. Joan is considered one of the groundbreaking, ceiling smashing poets of the late 20th century, writing a blazing path without which poets like me, lesbian feminist poets like me, would not have a place to stand and speak. So seeing her read last winter at the Grolier Poetry Bookshop in Cambridge, Massachusetts, friends, it was nothing short of a genuine, massive poetry bucket list experience for me. And I'm incredibly grateful that she agreed to join us today and share from her latest collection, her sixth, Old Stranger. Well, Joan Larkin's, as I said, sixth collection of poetry, Old Stranger, was published by Alice James Books in 2025, and her previous works include Cold River, Blue Hanuman, and My Body, New and Selected Poems, which is also behind me right here as well, which was the recipient of the Publishing Triangle's Audre Lorde Award. Joan, a lifelong teacher, co-founded Out and Out Books during the 1970s surge in feminist publishing and co-edited the groundbreaking anthologies Amazon Poetry, before the Amazon that we, I'll say unfortunately, know now, Amazon Poetry, and Gay and Lesbian Poetry in Our Time, among many, many others. Would you please join me in welcoming the one and only Joan Larkin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this series, and to the wonderful Cora and Tim and Rose, and thanks to Don and Kim for their work in making this happen. So I'll read from Old Stranger, and I'm just going to make a note of the time so I don't go over. Memory and autobiography keep on being deep resources for my writing, but my perspective has changed and the story changes too. So in this poem, Girls Department, it ends with a note of admiration about an aspect of my mother that in the past was in other poems was all about blame and accusation, but we grow older and grow up. Girls' department. I stared at my shameful flesh in the three-way mirror. Mother, my guide, my witness, pinched me between her fingers, thinking aloud. Could she work with the skimpy seam allowance, get it to fit? My model thin cousin, Nancy, sent me a box of hand-me-downs, soft wool skirts, an orchid sweater set a size too small, another girl's raiment. My sister meant well, Mother instructed, then took me to Brigham's for a treat. Hot fudge melted breast-like pyramids of peppermint stick ice cream, and I crunched the small, clear candies. I sang in a talent contest once, Indian Love Call, in a green tulle gown Mother grabbed from a bin. She had an eye for a bargain. She took up the hem. I'm going to read my father's Tyrac, and I wanted to write a list poem that would describe my father's gorgeous array of neckties. And in the 1940s, they were really among my first encounters with something that eventually evolved into an appreciation for visual art, my love of painters and painting. But in the whole process of trying to find language to describe the neckties, I saw later that I'd painted a kind of portrait of my father, his yearnings and constraints, and the mystery that another person always is. My father's Tyrac, back of the door to his dark closet, eye height, with clever steel pegs I could flip both ways, a row of pendulums, of tongues, words wordless, witnesses waiting to be sworn, the town secret, a silk body, a man's plenty, a wild ache, a knot, one painted with gold mums, one with blood leaves on mud, Vishnu's skin, 20 shades of sky, white flag iris, slick sheen of a green-black snake. Which one went with him into the hole? Somewhere else, his belts. Um, I'm going to read Chain of Events, and the first line has the title of a famous Jean-Paul Sartre book, so you'll recognize that, Being and Nothingness. And it also mentions Herb Pomeroy. And when I was growing up outside of Boston, Herb Pomeroy's band played at a club called the Stables every night. And the poem says it, so it doesn't need further explanation. Chain of events. It started with being and nothingness, and hiding my pack of Luckies in my school bag, tucking a matchbook in front without tearing the cellophane. I risked taking the streetcar downtown late at night. Did they never hear me? And basked in the gleam of Herb Pomeroy's band and the tang of underage vodka in orange juice. I quit sleeping in metal curlers, told everyone I was an existentialist, though I kept wearing my Peter Pan collar and gold tone circle pin almost right up to the night of the abortion. I gave up on the straggly page boy. I think that was part of what Mother meant when she screamed, "Where did I go wrong?" They all were reading from the same script, those mothers. Okay, banjo, dulcimer, fiddle. I went to a college in the late 1950s where folk musicians would come and sometimes perform, in a formal setting, but more often we just hung out on the big lawn in front of the main building and listened to them. The whole Seeger family would show up there and play. banjo, dulcimer, fiddle. Face resting in my palm, I stretched out long on the green lawn, listening, not listening so much as loving how air shivered and sorrow was a tune, a light index finger downstroke, a slide joke, a note that repeated. My mind twanged with it. Grass trembled and shone. Banjo, dulcimer, fiddle, singing my story. Hush, listen. This song has 1,000 verses. I've tried to write about music at different times, and I guess I have had to resort to metaphor because there's no direct translation, is there, of a musical experience. So where is it? On page 39, it says. And this was written in, I spent a few years recently in Tucson, Arizona, where there's a big telescope. And so the street lamps are almost non-existent or very dim because they keep the town dark so that you can see the stars. And this is dedicated to the jazz pianist and composer Fred Hirsch. Whisper not. I'm straining to see, desert sky dark, left hand on the wheel, right hand turning a knob, and suddenly I'm inside a piano, inside your contrapuntal mind, where glass shakes on a high shelf as the subway comes. Spider swings her spinnerets into the wind, crisscrossing tungsten silk. The future is unforeseen, nerves stutter, step walk down to the guttural cellar, left hand argues with right, and just as I think you'll leave me in split space-time, the tempo lifts, delivers the key to your house. Still curled in your mind, inside the car, inside the dark, I see your hands, your eyes almost, sky glow escaping. I should make it clear that there's no subway in Tucson, Arizona, but a Brooklyn memory came in as I was working on the poem. So a little more about music. Mozart's songbook. Outside on Fremont Ave, black snow, and no such thing as a white wig or a love-struck violet who sings his heart out. My lungs ached, huge with breath and the harsh sweetness of strange words, Veilchen, Mädchen. My brother spoke them to show how my tongue was a gate that could open secrets. He pressed keys part way to draw softest sounds from the upright, and what he loved, I loved. That was my whole faith then. And this is, if you've ever tried to give away an upright piano, this may resonate for you, but it was my job and my honor to empty my brother's house after his passing. No one wants them. It stood in the half-emptied parlor, heavy-footed, 700 pounds, old dark body streaked where claws had sharpened against its side. Dust wheeled in a downdraft. The auctioneer was saying he couldn't give it away. No one wants them, filling his van with cracked things. Hard to get any value out of this house as he slid brass bed rails behind a slotted plate stand. I kept my mouth shut. He couldn't give a shit for the speech of angels. All it needed was new felt for the hammers. Someone, a kid, could learn on it. Or the nursing home, Tall Pines. I cleaned ivory keys, offered free delivery. The born-again teacher wanted it for her son, whey-faced and mute in his father's grasp, while she tried some chords. Oh, we're sorry. The tuner put on his black cap after 5 minutes. The keys were plastic. Tuning could snap old wires, etc. I made the phone call then, and a kind man came with his rope and harness. I paid him to take it in his truck to sink to earth in the Camden dump. That was August. It will rot in winter. And I'm going to, I want to read 2 more poems, and one came after Old Stranger, and then I'll read a last one from Old Stranger. This poem was published in Lavender Review, Lesbian Poetry and Art, last December. And the anger certainly lasts and grows even 50 years later. What should I have said to the pale, bald dome? He stared over his mask, striding beside me down the alley. What do you think of a poet who wrote, "Only those with vaginas can call themselves women"? Is that transphobic? Asking me, poet of the vagina, to judge. Yes, I said, walking fast as my left foot let me. Sorry I can't join you for a drink. He thrust his card. I took it, didn't say, what do you think a woman is? A hole? I was a slippery fish gasping in a net, lips stretched like a smile, a mouth open wide, made for swallowing. And I'll end with White Pine, which comes near the end of Old Stranger. Walking to the studio, cane printing the dirt, I see you rising from a thicket, ragged ferns at your foot, deep grooves in your bark, around you a cloud of needles. High on your trunk, 2 moons like scars of sheared off breasts where the chainsaw whined and sap oozed from the wound. Below them, a dark, articulate slit, dead and living in one body. Your cones open in warm air, give winged seeds to the wind, enough for a forest. Death poem, wait. Joan, keep walking. Thank you.
Joan, keep walking, keep writing, keep being you. Wow, what a reading. Felt like I was brought back to Cambridge all over again, hearing you read from Old Stranger then, and just 3 little anecdotal things I want to say, and then we'll close everything out. First of all, I am in the enviable position at this very moment of trying to give away the innards of a baby grand piano, which is a little crazy. That's, I could share that offline, but there you go. The second thing is, I will never look at my neckties again the same way. My collection of neckties. I've heard the poem, I've read the poem, but like hearing it again today, I'm like, right, Sandy, you really need to just savor, appreciate, and really let the imaginations of those neckties run wild, like Joan has just done. And then finally, I want to just say that, you're an example of like how to give a poetry reading, how to write a poem. The specificity of narrative just really grabs me. And of course, the specificity of narrative and how time shifts that narrative over time and how the details change. Just really, just so grateful for the reading today, Joan. Thank you so much. The
Oh, thank
sixth,
you,
the
Sandy.
sixth collection is Old Stranger. And of course, we will savor and appreciate this and look forward to the seventh.
Working on it.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Thank you. Thank you, one and all, for being here today for this just very prismatic reading from these four poets joining us from many different places across the globe with their unique perspectives, and yet we found things that connected everybody. I was thinking a little bit about, and I put it in the chat, Joan and Tim having those memories from Brooklyn. And, poetry has miraculous ways of connecting us. And that's why I come here every Sunday or most Sundays, is to find those unique ways to connect. So before I close out today, how about we take a moment to unmute, show our appreciation for the connections made today between Tim Dwyer, Rose Boehm, Cora Peters, and Joan Larkin.
Bravo, poets.
Hey.
Bravo.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
all.
Really
much.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.
Awesome. Love it. I know whose voice that was. I know whose voice that was saying awesome. And it truly was. Everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you will join us next week here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Well, if it's the third Sunday, what else is it going to be but our wildest of wild card open mic? Bring your poems. Let's shuffle that deck and get the poems going in 2026. Come early to sign up. Sign ups, we fill up in lightning quick. So 15 minutes before, if you want to get one of those coveted 12 featured slots, we will go to the waiting list, of course. That will be next Sunday, same time, same registration link. And again, I'm so grateful to have been able to be in community with all of you here. Thanks again to, Tim, Cora, Rose, and Joan. And just a reminder, everybody, that I encourage you, please take very good care of yourselves this week. I know it's been a tough week. Every week has elements of things that, that truly try us. So take good care of yourself. Take exquisite care of your beloveds. And friends, please keep writing your miraculous poems. They are the things that can keep uplifting us through difficult times. I'm Sandy Yannone for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Thank you, of course, to Don Krieger and Kim Ports Parsons. We couldn't do the program without them, and we couldn't do the program without all of you. Take good care, my friends. We'll see you next week.